Great. So these are some tips to kind of help build community in your classes and help students feel more connected and encourage them to interact. First, just being intentional in having a reason for why you're asking students to do what you ask. So this could be either an instructional reason or a social reason that you're trying to achieve a certain goal through these communication methods. As you guys are learning, being online requires more advanced planning and requires more thinking through how to interact and how to encourage students to be more involved. So being intentional and clear about what you're trying to achieve can really help make that effective. So one thing we haven't touched on as much so far is that we recommend having opportunities for social interaction for students, particularly in this case because they might be stuck at home and aren't getting to see each other on a regular basis like they were before. So using something like instant messaging or forums gives them an opportunity to just socialize, talk about what's going on, get to know each other if they are in a larger class and didn't already get to know each other. So those are some suggestions that we would make as you're setting up your course. In addition, if you're using instant messaging tools, it's a good idea to make sure that you have multiple channels and that it's clear what's for instruction and what's for social discussion. Same thing with the forum. So you might have a forum that's more like the general discussion, or I'm trying to find a better word, but the main thing they usually call it is a water cooler. But they're not working yet, so water cooler doesn't seem quite right to me. But let me know if you think of something better for like hanging out, talking on campus. So having some kind of forum that's more dedicated to just letting them interact and get to know each other. In addition to trying to encourage students to actively participate in forums, either for social or instructional reasons, it's important for you to be actively involved, or your TA if you have a TA that you can ask to do that. We have seen forums that are really successful, and we're going to talk a bit more about how also the questions you ask can make a difference. But one of the big things is also they notice whether you're paying attention or not. So if you're not in there at all, you don't provide any feedback, they notice, and there can be a pretty significant drop-off rate, or it gets to the point where it is sort of the I agree with Bob, or same thing that they said, or let me just post the same thing again. So, there's definitely examples of bad use of forums, but I think there are ways just by you being involved and what you ask them to do that can make a real difference. In addition, it's worth considering giving them a bit more agency over their education. So giving them options and letting them choose can make a real difference. So for example, you might have 3 different discussion prompts and ask them just to respond to one. Or if they were doing something such as a team assignment and they had 4 deliverables, you might ask them to only each do 1 or each do 2 or something like that. So sometimes by giving them options, you give them a bit more free reign and independence, and that can be much appreciated. So in addition, not requiring everyone to do everything in other ways can also be important. So just keep in mind that in teamwork, you might want them to select their own roles and kind of have a specified role that they're doing that piece. So that's another way to give them options to kind of negotiate how they might work as a group and take different roles. In terms of designing the interaction to be active among students, particularly in a discussion format, we recommend trying to give them more active, kind of in-depth discussions. So one problem we commonly see is that it's more of like a reading comprehension type question. So it's really just, did you do the reading, and asking a question related to the reading, but not kind of pushing it very far in terms of like what they're trying to do with the readings that they've taken in. So for example, making it more active, you could have them debate an issue. You could try to build in more research opportunities into the discussion activity. For example, they could be answering a question or solving a problem. You could also have them finding or curating new information. So they're kind of not just taking in what you've given them, but they're trying to add to and curate new resources. Also asking them to apply knowledge and concepts to their own lives and experiences is really important. We know that, learning is more impactful if done around meaning. Making it more meaningful for how it connects to students' lives can make a real difference and makes it easier for us to remember what we learned that way. So in addition, addressing complex issues, so not something that's pretty easy to answer or solve, but something that's fairly complex and difficult to understand, can really help students dig in and take more of an interest and kind of explore different elements of an issue. So that's another strategy that we recommend. So in addition, we do recommend, if you can take the time to set it up, doing team and group assignments. It's a highly effective engagement strategy, and it also allows students to have agency. For example, you could consider something like student presentations. This could either be something formal, such as they have a certain week that they present in class, they do a group presentation in a live session. When I say class, I mean live session. Or it could be more informal, like is there some way that they're debriefing about an activity they did, or doing some kind of leading of a class discussion. So there's a number of ways that they could kind of present and share information or create new information. In addition, as I mentioned before, you could do student projects and have them in defined roles. So you would want to clearly write out what those roles would be, and then put them in groups and have them negotiate about who's going to do what role. So one thing to keep in mind is that you would want teams to evaluate each other with a rubric so that they can kind of have a clear way of knowing whether they're doing what they're supposed to, and know how they will be evaluated by their other team members. One other effective strategy is to have students develop their own peer evaluation criteria. So basically they're setting the standard for the work and how they're going to work as a team, which can make them feel more involved and part of the process, and also kind of, it's like a social contract to each other that this is what we're saying good participation and teamwork is. So that can make a real difference. So I think actually that might, oh yeah, that's the end. It happened so fast, I wasn't ready. And thank you guys so much for joining us. Good luck with moving to remote teaching. And we're happy to try to help you along the way. So let us know how it goes.